Well, every time I do a podcast, it has this countdown clock starting at 5 seconds. And what's supposed to happen is I'm looking at the screen, it goes five, four, three, two, one, then I'm supposed to start talking. I was just distracted for just a moment. I didn't hit it right after 1 second. So if you happen to see me just staring into space for 1 to 2 seconds, you know that I wasn't paying attention to the countdown clock. But that's neither here nor there. Hey, welcome to the Church Answers podcast. My name is Thom Rainer. I serve as CEO, and I love all of our audience at Church Answers. I love those who are part of Church Answers membership, where for a small $9.97 a month, they have an incredible community, and they have the ability to get news and information that others don't. We make a lot of information free, but we're also offering information that is exclusive to Church Answers members. I love all of those. I love our podcast listeners and viewers because a few of you are at YouTube. That is one of our growing channels, but it's small, but still growing right now. So thank you, all of you. And while I'm giving thank yous, I want to say thank you to Belay Solutions. They are your productivity experts. They are the ones that provide you bookkeepers and executive assistants and the type of people who can do the things to free you to do the things you need to be doing and should be doing. You sometimes equip the saints to do the work of ministry, and then sometimes you provide other people the opportunity to come into your organization. Belay does all of the work for you. They are going to make your organization more productive. So if you're looking for an assistant, a bookkeeper, or someone of that ilk, contact Belay and also get their relatively new. I've been mentioning it for some time, but get their book, their eBook that is called The Power of Productivity. Text Thom at 55123. That's THOM at 55123 to get the free download. Okay, here's the question. Why do some churches refuse to increase the pastor's compensation? Why do some churches refuse to increase the pastor's compensation? I'm going to give you 4 reasons. Obviously, 4 reasons is not an exhaustive list, but at least it is a list that can help you to understand why some pastors' compensation just seem frozen. And I'm going to offer a 5th one as a possible bonus, but there are 4 that we see commonly. The first one is ignorance. Do you know there's some churches where no one is responsible for watching what the staff or pastor makes, particularly the pastor? The pastor often looks after the staff's compensation, whether they are part-time or full-time, but there's some churches where no one is monitoring what the pastor has for compensation. How do I know that? Been there, done that. One of the stupidest things I did was watch my compensation be frozen for years at a church, thinking that it was personal and never talking to anybody about it, ultimately leaving that church because our family could not survive on the pay that they were giving us. And after I announced my resignation, again, I've told this story many times. I really think I was out of the will of God. After I announced my resignation, 3 or 4 leaders came up to me and asked why, and I told them. And they were broken. They said, why didn't you come to us? No one was responsible in the church for my compensation. And so since no one had responsibility, no one noticed that the entire time I was there, I had not gotten any increase. So one thing is just ignorance. Maybe you have a personnel committee. Maybe you have a diaconate that looks after that. Maybe you have elders who do. Maybe you have an executive pastor who helps look after the pastor. But in many churches, you don't have any one person who is looking after the pastor's compensation. And so there is ignorance. Now, ignorance just means lack of knowledge. It doesn't mean stupid. It just means ignorant. Ignorant literally means no knowledge. Okay? Second reason is some leaders in churches have an unbiblical view of pastoral compensation. And essentially their view is, well, the pastor is called to sacrifice. So the more we starve our pastor, the more biblical that pastor will be. That is just asinine. Every time I've heard we humble our pastor, I heard that from an elder in a consultation about 2 years ago. And of course, I risk losing that church as a client when I said this, but I said to that elder, I said, well, if that causes humility and spiritual growth in him, why don't you do that too? Why don't you freeze your salary? And I could tell I wasn't a very well-accepted comment, and I probably did it more out of emotions than I did out of prayerful thought. But there is an unbiblical view. Uh, we're going to starve our pastor because that's going to make that pastor more humble and more effective. Humbug. It's going to make the pastor worry about finances more and supporting the family. So as a result, when that distraction is taking place, they can't focus on the things that they are called to do. So this unbiblical is a humbug type of answer. So what is some of the others? Sometimes there is jealousy. Uh, Again, should the pastor make more than the people do? There's some churches that really like to see their pastor be at about the median compensation for the church members who are still employed. So, I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not, but some people see the pastor as being overpaid because they compare it to their own pay. And so there's a jealousy factor. Now, the reality of it is, in most churches I know, the pastor is not even at the median, which means 50% of the people are lower compensation in the church and 50% are higher than the pastor. And so, that reason that of jealousy is usually among a few people who just don't like the fact that the pastor is making the amount of money compared to what they are. And so there is the comparison issue that takes place as well. What is another reason for this? One is what I would call the power issue. Some people who get in a position of authority, such as head of personnel, or if it's the elders or deacons, whoever's making decisions about compensation, it's a power play for them to control the pastor's pay at a lower salary. And so they get a kick out of that. They shouldn't, but that power play comes into being. And as a result, many times they just say, our pastor does not need or deserve increased compensation. Now, kind of a bonus comment. Is this common in most churches? If most is defined as 50% or more, I will say yes, it is common in most churches. I don't know how much above 50%, but I have plenty of anecdotal information to say that a majority, probably a simple majority of churches, do not look after the pastor by making sure the pastor and the pastor's family are taken care of. It is a growing problem. Now, there's another issue, second bonus. The Hartford study recently released some information about a lot of information, but one of it was on the median attendance of churches in America today. It's gone down from 65 to 60. So 50% of all churches, roughly 400,000 churches in the United States, have an attendance below 60. As churches get smaller, they cannot compensate their pastor as well. And many churches are stuck on a compensation paradigm that's 5 to 10 years old. They haven't made increases, but they refuse to acknowledge they need to go bivocational because they really cannot pay a livable wage to pastors, even though they think that they are. So those are just two bonus things I wanted to throw out there. Here's the bottom line. Your pastor is not likely overpaid by whatever definition you want to call that. There will always be exceptions. Oh, I know we're going to hear the stories of the pastors of these large churches that make these high sums of salary, but that's not common. In the 400,000 churches, most of them, probably 380,000 of the 400,000, have a pastor who is closer to being overpaid than underpaid. If you're a church member and you don't know if your pastor is being looked after, at least ask the question to make certain that that particular burden, supporting a family, is taken care of by the church. So, why some churches refuse to increase the pastor's compensation? It is not a single answer. There are multiple points at play. I hope this information helps you. We always want to thank Belay for being our sponsor. Thank you for providing the Power of Productivity download. Once again, you can get that by texting Thom at 55123. That's THOM at 55123. Also, for a few episodes, I'm going to keep reminding you that my new book, When the People Pray, is all about praying for the pastor. It's a 30-day guided program for the church to pray for the pastor. Pastors, get it and ask your church to do it. Don't be shy. And also, don't be shy to ask your leaders to recruit others to pray for your pastor. There's so much that needs to be done, so much work. Let's lift up our pastors instead of putting them down. This has been the Church Answers Podcast. I'm Thom Rainer, and I'll see you in the next episode. Hey, folks, this is a PS to our podcast. We got some exciting stuff that we want to offer you absolutely for free. Sam, when you think about predictive factors in a church's growth, if you take out demographics, what are some things that come to mind? Just two. I mean, don't give me a list of 10. Just 2 or 3 things that come to mind on predictive growth of a church.
Well, evangelism and whether the church is doing it or not.
Bingo.
And then I will add, is it an ongoing evangelism emphasis?
Double bingo. Well. And maybe something about leadership and their commitment to that. So all of the above.
Evangelistic churches have evangelistic pastors. Is the staff, is the lead pastor doing the work themselves?
We have a free download for you, and it's actually a sheet that you can self-score. You answer 20 questions, anywhere from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And we come back and we predict what your growth rate is going to be for the next year in worship attendance. It's not a perfect tool, but it's a good tool. There's a link to that for the attendance predictor. Look in the show notes. You'll absolutely love it. That's cool. We'll see you soon.